Up in smoke. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. Thanks for joining us here on a Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, or whenever you
or a
tune
Saturday
in.
or Sunday
or
or
Saturday
Monday
or Sunday. In our 15th year now, Mr. Nash.
Time shifting away.
Time shifting away. And we've decided for our holiday shows this year, we're going to do something a little different. So you had come up with this idea. I'll let you take it away and tell people about how they can share with us some of their holiday mishaps, or, I'll let you take it away.
And Tim, I'll just go, poof, Gina Day. That's an old story. But we miss all the, when we were live on Sirius, we used to have shows where we'd have people call in with certain things on topics, and it was fun to connect everybody. And a lot of you are still with us. So we thought we'd have a holiday show that will air the week of Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, that will be made up of listener audio. So what we're going to do is we're asking you guys for stories that revolve around office things like Secret Santa or office Christmas parties that sometimes go off the rails, or there's something's really well-intentioned, it doesn't go right. It doesn't have to be a long story, just something funny, a little bit of brevity. You can call a number that we have set up. It's 508-936-3439. 508-936-3439. Leave a voicemail, leave your story. And if you do it that way, let us know how to get in touch with you, because if we use your story during this holiday show, you'll get a pair of Focus Group Radio socks, which always are in great demand. Then Tim had the great idea. He said, well, why don't we not just have people call in? If you feel like dropping us a letter and we can narrate your story ourselves, it's letters@focusgroupradio.com. Or if you want to record something on your phone, like when you do like an audio note or something, you could just send it to letters@focusgroupradio.com. We'll collect all of this. What we use, as I said, we'll put on our holiday show. We'll talk in between it. And if we use your piece, you'll get a pair of Focus Group Radio socks, as long as you know you leave us a way to get in touch with you. So the number is 508-936-3439.
Right, with just an address to send the socks. The socks are purple. There are purple socks.
Still purple,
that we have.
Hey,
so,
Tim, here's something from our childhood. Do you remember the term SACE?
SACE?
SASE. People would always say, send in a self-addressed stamped envelope.
Oh, my God.
Do you remember that from back in the day when you'd send away for something? You'd send a
self-addressed stamped
envelope, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, no, Whew. Well, then it was, I was watching some old shows on TV on Pluto.
I love Pluto.
And it was just simple, send it to Radio City Music Hall. That's all it was. It didn't have any zip codes.
Because it was Radio City.
Yeah.
Did you ever order stuff out of comic books, by the way?
I did. I had this fantasy that I ordered the, sea monkeys. They showed them. It looked like something out of, some
science
underworld
fiction movie.
Right.
Yeah.
They had crowns on. There was a father with a staff, and the kids around a table, and the mother. All it was bacteria that grew in a petri dish, right?
Brine.
I expected that I was going to get
brine.
Right. I thought I was going to get this little
kingdom
of things and them doing things. As a kid, I mean, those pictures were incredible. If you remember what they look, I have to dig up.
I remember
the
the comic book illustrations perfectly.
Didn't it look like they were all hanging out in the ocean, in the bottom of the ocean? It was pre-SpongeBob. I mean, it was exactly what we thought we were going to, live with. And then
I remember
we
the day
got them, and my mother's like, they're bugs.
It's shrimp brine. Yeah, it was never exciting. I remember the day my mom saw me like very carefully doing my self-addressed stamped envelope, and I was putting some like $1.50. I forget what it was, but she's like, "What are you doing, sweetie?" I said, "I'm ordering X-ray glasses."
You're gonna see.
And she just makes this face, and she goes, "Really?" She goes, all it is a piece of paper with a hole in the middle." I'm like, "No, it's X-ray. I'm going to be able to see through people's clothing and through the bank wall, through the whole thing."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like me and my chemistry set. My grandfather was visiting one time. He's like, "What do you want to do with your chemistry set, Johnny?" I'm like, "I'm going to make a bomb." He's like, how about let's start with invisible ink first?
Surprised you didn't go for counseling. I also ordered a Frankenstein. It was supposed to have been an 8-foot Frankenstein, and it has this big elaborate description. These people should have been in trouble for false advertising. So it was this, and it looked like the way it was drawn and shown, it looked like I was going to get this mannequin sort of thing, this huge, looking like Herman Munster. So it comes, and I was very deflated when it arrived because it came in a little envelope. And you
What
had
was
to.
it?
It was a poster that you had to unfold, a plastic too. It was like, thin, cheap plastic
I know
poster.
exactly what you're talking about.
That essentially was the size of a door, and you could put it on your door. Here I thought I was going to get this monster I could have in the house, but it was just a piece of paper.
Deceptive.
Flimsy. Yeah, it was deceptive.
I remember I wanted to sell grit. I remember grit was always the thing they would advertise, that newspaper or something. You could make a fortune selling grit. And I remember all the kids on the street I lived, we're going to sell grit. We're going to be able to buy anything we want. We go to the toy store, get anything we want when we sell grit. My granddad was visiting. He's like, I said, Pap, we have this great idea. We're going to sell grit. He just nods his head. He goes, I don't know, John, if it was that easy, everybody would be selling grit and making a fortune.
That's a grit.
I was like, oh.
It's like Bitcoin. See, it was precursor.
Or NFTs, non-fungible tokens.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, Mr. Nash, what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
You and I don't believe we ever had this experience because we didn't travel Europe as penniless students.
No.
And when you did travel as a penniless student, where did you stay when you had to stay somewhere? You stayed at a youth hostel, right?
Right.
So I found this article that just fascinated me. It was a woman got to Vienna while she was backpacking across Europe and discovered that her hostel was inside an IKEA store, which, I thought, wow, that's really cool. Her name is Jess Braun, and she said during a 2.5-week backpacking trip, they end up in Vienna, and lo and behold, they get to the address of the hostel, and it's IKEA. She's a 28-year-old girl from Ontario, and she left the reservation to her friend. She told Business Insider, so she didn't know about the unconventional accommodation until their flight landed. What do you mean we have to go to IKEA? So she was very shocked that they get there. She said upon arrival, Braun whipped out her phone and filmed the trio's ascent up the escalators to Joe and Joe, the hostel located on the store's top 2 floors. So they get in there, they look around, and apparently there's walls of glass that you could look down to the sales floor as well. It's through some of these areas. But you are definitely at the top of an IKEA. And she said it was very spacious, but it had an industrial but chill feel to it. And also, she said, if you ever seen Night at the Museum, it had that kind of vibe when the store closed because they could look out the wall and see that, no, the store was just closed. You might see a cleaning person or something. She said it was the most unique hostel she ever stayed in, and it was affordable. The 3-person room, Tim, you and I our days of traveling into a 2 or 3-person room are long over. 341 euros, or at the time of the conversion, $372 for 3 nights. And the IKEA cafeteria provided a cheap and delicious dining room, which makes me think they had meatballs every day.
Yeah, meatballs.
Is that what they always
Swedish
have with
meatballs. Yeah, Lingonberry. She probably had Uftelafa too.
Yeah, that's right. So she said when she posted about the experience on the Talk, Tim, what do you call it? The TikTok?
The TikTok.
The TikTok. It blew up, receiving a staggering 2.7 million views. Commenters were intrigued. Surely they do hostile IKEA hide-and-seek nights. That could be kind of fun. This would make me feel safer, blah, blah, blah. The hostel opened in 2021 as part of a partnership between Joe and Joe, and it's Joe, J-O, and J-O-E. So I guess it's a woman and a guy, Joe and Joe, which is owned by French hospitality giant Accor. Oh, so it's made up. Okay. The space features some IKEA furniture and fixings, naturally, but a decidedly different design scheme. So I thought about this for a while, and I thought, something? It would have been funnier if they just let them sleep in some of the fake set-up bedrooms, right?
Say the end, some of the tableaus that they have going on.
There's the room setup, right? But could you imagine getting to Vienna and your youth hostel is at the top of an IKEA? It was kind of fun.
Well, I do. I guess it would also be safe.
Yes, very safe.
Which I think is, one of the big issues now with a lot of these youth hostels is safety. So maybe the fact that it is so public, and my guess is the security at IKEA is pretty good. So,
And if I'm
but I
not
never heard of
mistaken,
such a thing.
no. And my guess is with these hostels, isn't it always a shared bathroom, like almost like a dorm kind of thing?
Oh yeah,
'Cause
I
I
stayed at one in Pennsylvania in Philadelphia when we would row. We had no money, and there were 4 bunk beds. There were 8 of us in a room.
8.
And then sometimes, so it was the rowing, part of the rowing team, but then also a bunch of kids from Europe that would be, making their way through the States, sharing a room with us. And you never knew who was there. You'd have to watch your bag. I don't know. It was just really weird. And yeah, you're right. There was one bathroom that everybody went to, but I was used to that in college. But
You know what? On my recent bike trip to Spain, you had the option of being paired up with someone else who might be traveling by themselves. I just immediately went to the single option and how much
that's
extra
what you
that
do.
was. I remember I talked to you about it once, and I said it's like an extra $600. You're like, you're too old to
Right.
share.
even you and I don't share anymore. I went to
Only in Rome. I got a
yeah.
euro with your name on it.
That was a day room. Last time I traveled, when I went to Finland, I got stuck. We stayed at a youth hostel sort of thing in the middle of nowhere at one of these rally races. And they paired me up with one of the British drivers, one of the mechanics on the team. Oh, no, he looked like Spanky from Little Rascals.
The Rascals, yeah.
And they're like, oh, you're going to have, and I forget his name, Nigel staying with you. And he was a little roly-poly, and he had the tiniest little briefy underwear on that he wore the whole time in the room with me there, which was really uncomfortable, odd, walking around. ABBA's playing in the background.
Money, money, money.
They was take a chance on me.
Oh.
And his British accent, and he's, happy as can be. And then he gets in bed and farts and starts snoring. And I was like, oh my God, how many nights of this?
If you
And,
change your mind, take a chance.
Take a chance. You're right. That or I could turn on TV. So I had no chance. So in Finland, I knew none of the language, of course. And so anyway, he stayed with me for 3 nights. I was there for 2 weeks. And then he had gone on his way.
Did you get used to the skimpy briefs after a while, or?
Well, he was such a character. I mean, there could have been a movie about this guy. He was such a nut. I mean, but no, he had no, I guess he was
No
used
shame.
to doing this with traveling. Yeah. And he would say, you're an American, aren't you? I was like, yeah, obviously, right? He goes, you often have you need a proper lunch. You have to feed the Americans a proper lunch. So we went to the store to get stuff. But I wish I could remember his name again, his full name. But he was a character, but I thought, I was so demure and so cognizant, like, how do I behave with? I don't know the guy, and he's in this room with me. But he had no problem, stripped right down, these little black briefs, and he should not have been wearing black briefs. I mean, he was, like Don Rickles. But anyway.
Enough said on
I don't think he's listening to the podcast, but so
No.
I'm not offending anybody. But yeah, so no, I could see that. So no, those days are over, John.
Yeah, the rooming.
No,
yeah.
we're not sharing rooms. My story is quite different, and it actually had turned the. I don't know if you saw this in the press, but it kind of turned the marketing and entertainment world upside down. First, the entertainment world upside down, then the marketing world.
I saw the ad itself. This is interesting.
Yeah. So Snoop Dogg, as everybody knows, is famous for his marijuana smoking. In fact, he used to smoke quite a bit with Matthew McConaughey and Willie Nelson. In fact, he was on Jimmy Kimmel, and I think he said the only person that could outsmoke him was Willie Nelson, who was 90. He said he's the only person he ever met that could outsmoke him. He said, I had to hit the timeout button with him. So, but he's famous for his use of cannabis, and he talks about it, writes about it, sings about it. And so last week, or pre-Thanksgiving, he was quoted as saying, I've decided to give up smoke. So he's standing there, and actually CNN had posted, and I saw this picture, or this article originally on CNN, and they're showing him with the doobie in his hand taking a puff. And I said, oh, I wonder if he's decided for health reasons he doesn't want to smoke anymore, or what's going on. And so the headline from CNN was Snoop Dogg giving up weed. And then it was in a bunch of different, the press, Associated Press, everybody picked this up. And they let it go for about a week. Everybody was talking about he's going smokeless. And I thought, I guess he's going to go to edibles. Maybe he's going to talk about a new edible he's doing, or tincture or something, right? Yeah. So lo and behold, he comes out on the Today Show and says, I need to set the record straight. And he said I was giving up smoke, but he didn't say what kind of smoke. So when everybody thought he was giving up weed, he said, no, he said, I'm not giving up weed, but I do have an announcement to make. And so here's the commercial. And then they show the commercial, which I think is probably the best marketing hype of the year.
Oh, brilliant.
It says, I have an announcement. I'm giving up smoke. This is Snoop Dogg. I know what you're thinking. Snoop, smoke is kind of your whole thing, he says in the ad. But I'm done with it. Done with coughing and my clothes smelling all sticky, icky. I'm going smokeless. The camera then pulls back to reveal the rapper sitting next to the flames of a solo stove, which takes out the smoke, he explains, adding, clever. The ad concluded by showing Snoop Dogg laughing as he roasted a marshmallow over the flames. And they said, so he's been a marijuana smoker enthusiast, as we said, for quite some time. But everybody took this, I'm done with smoke, to mean he was stopping smoking marijuana. In fact, he was just talking about this solo stove, which I have friends that have them. They love them. I don't know if you know anything about them.
We have a traditional fire pit thing we got at Lowe's or something, and you just throw the wood in. This looked intriguing to me.
I have friends that love them. They got them a year or so ago. And it was funny, before this whole thing came out, it showed up on my social media feed, and I actually thought of getting one because I thought.
Are they expensive?
I want to say they're in the 3-4 range, but
Okay.
don't quote me on that. But I thought it'd be a great thing because if it's not sparking, it's not smoking, it would be good for,
Outdoor, yeah.
Right, for outdoors, obviously is where it should be. So they said that, so people thought that this was actually a great marketing ploy. They said one person had responded to the campaign and said, I'm buying it off the strength of this ad campaign. They said that they also thought it was great that he had all eyes on him for a week talking about this. And then he finally, comes clean and tells what he was actually doing. And so they said it was for solo stoves. It was brilliant. This is a good use of celebrity. Good use of brand fitting with their brand story of smokeless, and the whole thing I think was just done right. It's something probably you and I would have come up with if I don't say so myself.
I would have liked to have come up with something like this because the runway, as you described it, was the whole joke about giving up smoke, which is the benefit of the it was a good, smart integration. I wish we had thought of it, right?
Yeah, so he had eyeballs on him all week, and then as people speculated what was going on, he told them, and lo and behold, he wasn't giving up weed. He was just getting this new smokeless solo stove. So good for him.
Talk about turning your name and your habits and your whole life into a marketing powerhouse. Snoop Dogg shows up in, like Corona Light commercials. Yeah. He's doing the stove thing. He's done stuff with Martha. I mean, not bad.
Yeah, somebody had asked him later on in the article, it talked about whether he would advocate if his kids had wanted to smoke marijuana.
What did he say?
He said, I'm not against it. He said, but if they did want to, I would want to educate them on how you do it. Yeah. And what you do and where you get the product. He said there's so much SHIT out there where people will, lace it with something or other. He said if my kids wanted to do it, he said it would be up to them. He said I don't advocate it. I wouldn't push it on them. But if they wanted to, I want them to be educated about it.
Good point.
Not get screwed up and get something that's laced with fentanyl or any of the
or
other
anything,
stuff that's
right?
Right. So,
or it could be like when I was younger and Greg and I were trying to score some weed in Washington Square Park, and we actually bought cut grass. We get back, I said, nothing's happening after an hour.
Were you smoking grass?
And Greg finally dumps the whole thing out. He goes, I think this is like grass. And I'm like, yeah, it's great. And he goes, no, grass, like lawn grass. We couldn't stop laughing. I mean, yeah. I
remember one time there was a woman in an alley in Philly that wanted me to go help her go get weed. I knew nothing about it, and I didn't smoke it. So she says, you got to go down there and talk to those guys. Dark alley. Mm-hmm. So I go wandering down there. I was like, I'm looking for marijuana. They're like, get out of here, Wonder Bread. So I came back. She goes, did you get anything? I said, no, they called me Wonder Bread and told me to get out of there. She goes, oh, you can't do anything. And then she stormed down there and came back with what I think was oregano. And then she was even more mad. I said, I don't know. You told me to go down. I was more concerned they called me Wonder Bread.
Yeah, exactly. Wrong place, wrong time, right?
Get out of here, Wonder Bread. I thought I was undercover. You know what? Get marijuana.
Get out of here. Yeah. Excuse me, may I please buy some marijuana?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see. Our friends at Deep Discount, Mr. Nash. We, as many of you know, Deep Discount is a partner of ours here on the Focus Group. They got tens of thousands of items on sale now: movies, music, games, collectibles, and more. And they've got a last-minute gift sale going on right now as well. And it's a great time to pick up a holiday gift, or even to add to your library, or to pick up a last-minute stocking stuffer or something for the holidays that are coming up. So be sure to head over to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo and start shopping away. What did you find this week, Mr. Nash?
I want to thank our friend Lauren at Deep Discount for turning me on to a documentary that I think everybody needs to watch if you have HBO Max. And it's about Albert Brooks. And it's called Defending My Life. And it was done by Rob Reiner, Carl Reiner's son. I didn't know that Albert Brooks and Rob Reiner went to high school together. I mean, the people they knew out in Hollywood's amazing. And Albert Brooks apparently had a whole career I knew little bits and pieces of. As a stand-up comedian, his dad was a comedian who died on stage at a Friars Club where they were honoring Lucy and Desi.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Anyway, in honor of him, I picked a movie that I have not seen completely in a number of years, and I want to see it again. That's why I picked it. Its Criterion Collection has one of his better-known movies, or actually one of the top ones, Lost in America. So there's the theory. Here's how the story goes. Blowing his stack after losing a coveted promotion, L.A. ad man David Howard sells his wife Linda, Julie Haggerty, on quitting work, liquidating their assets, and hitting the open road into Winnebago. Once they head out on the highway, though, they find obstacles that make Easy Riders pale in comparison. There's a part where they end up going to Vegas, and Julie Haggerty becomes enamored with gambling, and the rest of the story goes from there. But it's called Lost in America, and it was written and directed by Albert Brooks, who's in the movie, who plays ad man David Howard. Again, thank you, Lauren, for turning me on to the documentary about him. And this is one of his many movies. Defending Your Life is one of my favorites of his as well, and a couple others. So that's my pick.
Cool. I almost called you the other night because they finally put Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer back on TV. Remember they took it off for a while?
Yes, I do.
Or
Yeah.
they moved it to some like Apple TV or something. But it was on. I was flipping through and it was on, and I just kept it on and laughed in the background. And one of my favorite songs used to sing, "Jingle, jingle, jingle, jingle."
You can hear my sleigh bells ring.
So so I was tooling around there on Deep Discount, and I came across the complete Rankin Bass Christmas collection. So it's in Blu-ray. It was just released this year, October 31st, in fact, in 2023. And it includes all the Rankin and Bass movies. You can get them. It's 5 discs, 746 minutes of running time. You can get it for $59.99. You save $25. Also comes in DVD as well, but Blu-ray would be the way to go. The complete Rankin and Bass Christmas collection on Blu-ray includes Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Cricket on the Hearth. I don't know that one.
I don't remember that one.
The
Santa
Little
Claus is Coming to Town's in there, right?
Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Frosty the Snowman, Little Drummer Boy, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, A Year Without Santa, The First Christmas, Frosty's Winter Wonderland, Rudolph's Shiny New Year. I didn't like that one so much, I don't think.
No.
The Long-Eared Christmas Donkey, Jack Frost, Pinocchio's Christmas, Leprechaun's Christmas Gold, John. You're going to have to, Leprechaun is Christmas Gold versus Pride, the Pride Leprechaun.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. Merry Christmas. You have to do a Leprechaun Christmas. And then The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus. So some that you probably have not seen, because I've not seen all these. I didn't realize there were so many of these.
No.
You get them all in one place, in one collection.
Remember the Little Drummer Boy?
Bass. Oh, yeah.
Shall I play for him a rumpa-pum-pum?
Bum, 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 the sticks.
I think those are the three. Rudolph, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and Little Drummer Boy. Those they came out all in that formative time when we were kids, and you can only watch these on like CBS or one of the 3 networks, right?
Yeah. No, they had it was on CBS. You're right. It was
This
on
is a
CBS.
good pick.
So, so that was the complete Rankin Bass. So what was the new release this week?
We have a new release, and it's a movie that I did not get to see in theaters, and I want to see it because I'm a fan of the entire series, notably the first one, though. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So it's the final installment in the Indiana Jones series, at least starring Harrison Ford. As World War II waned, Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford, made sure that an ancient dial crafted by Archimedes, said to be the key to time travel, stayed out of Axis hands. Axis was, of course, Hitler and Mussolini. In 1969, goddaughter Helena Shaw, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who's in the show Fleabag, by the way, that's who she is, approached the aged archaeologist adventurer concerning the device and spurred a global chase by Nazis determined to retrieve it. You can never go wrong with putting Nazis and Indiana Jones together, just like the first movie, right? So it has a great cast. Mads Mikkelsen, Antonio Banderas, John Rhys-Davies, who plays his sidekick, and Karen Allen returns. Want to see it? I'm going to definitely get it. It's on 4K and Ultra HD, and Deep Discount has it for $30.99. Wow. So there you go, folks. It is a last-minute gift sale, as we have here on the screen. I picked Lost in America, directed and written and starring Albert Brooks, in honor of seeing him on a recent documentary, and I just think he's very funny, and I love his stuff, and I haven't seen this in a long time. This is from Criterion. They have two versions. Get the Criterion one. Tim picked the complete Rankin and Bass Christmas collection. Hours of entertaining stuff if you have childhood memories of this, and stuff you have never seen before, right? Like there's a couple shows you and I never saw.
I laughed out loud a couple of times on Rudolph, by the way. Some of the lines.
Are definitely from the 60s. And the new release this week is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So once again, go to focusgroupradio.com, click on the deep discount logo, and start your shopping extravaganza. It's a lot more than movies and TV shows. It's books, games, memorabilia, tons of stuff at deep discount. You will be able to do all your shopping there. We are going to take a quick break, and when we return, we have a business birthday and a shop talk about how Apple hires people. We've talked about them before, but this is a new one, so stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here with John Nash. And now it's time for our business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Born today, December 6th, in 1917, was Irvine Robbins. Remember Irvine Robbins, John?
No, but when I saw what he did, I'm like, thank you for having him be born, right?
Irv Robbins was a Canadian-born American businessman. He co-founded the Baskin-Robbins ice cream parlor chain in 1945 with his brother-in-law, Bert Baskin. As I said, Robbins was born in Winnipeg, Canada, to a Jewish family. He attended both Tacoma High School and Seattle's Garfield High School. His father owned a dairy and also the Olympic Store ice cream business in Tacoma, Washington. So he grew up scooping ice cream. And at that time, he said he realized that it was important to have some sort of a sales gimmick or a way he thought you could double or triple sales with playful labeling of ice cream or sundaes and things. So, for instance, his father was selling something that they called 3 scoops of. It actually said, the sign said, 3 scoops of ice cream, a slice of banana, and 2 kinds of toppings. So he labeled it the Super Banana Treat. And they ended up selling, he said, it tripled sales. And so he realized that if you could, make things a little sexier and talk about them a little more and label them properly, you would be able to increase sales. So he always remembered that. He went off to the University of Washington, graduated with a degree in political science, went off into World War II. He came back in 1945, and he moved to Glendale, California, and opened up his own ice cream stand after remembering liking to do that with his father, because he said the one thing he loved about working in the ice cream business is everybody always smiled. Everybody was happy. So he opened up the Snowbird Ice Cream Store, December 7th, 1945. Snowbird, it was called.
Yeah.
And he did it with money that he cashed in from money that was given to him for his bar mitzvah to start the business. He said he had about $6,000 between an insurance policy and his bar mitzvah money. And to open this ice cream stand, his brother-in-law, meanwhile, married his sister Shirley. And he was selling clothes in Chicago. He had a men's clothing store at the Palmer House in Chicago. And they were very close. He liked his brother-in-law quite a bit and said, selling ice cream in California is a lot more fun than selling clothes in Chicago. So it convinced him to come out, and he opened up an ice cream place in Pasadena. So they decided So they decided in 1948 to merge both of their ice cream shops. And they didn't know what they were going to call it, so they flipped a coin, and it came out to be, it was either going to be Baskin-Robbins or Robbins Baskin. And so it ended up being Baskin-Robbins. And they started their idea of doing this 31 flavors. Chocolate mint was one of the first flavors that they had concocted. They said that they worked closely on everything together. They would come up with ideas for flavors based upon what was happening at the time. For instance, they used to have a Cocoa a Go-Go. Was a chocolate ice cream when go-go dancers were popular. And so they said they would sit in the kitchen tasting all kinds of ingredients and putting concoctions together. Came up with the idea of the famous 31 flavors. And I never knew where this came from. And I worked at Baskin-Robbins. Do you know where the 31 flavors came from?
No. And this is an interesting. So, did it relate to? Okay, go ahead.
No, it's interesting because it's simple, but I never thought of it. It's essentially they wanted to have a different flavor every day. So if you came in for ice cream, you could get a different flavor every day.
And they went with 31 days in
31
most
days
months.
for months. And but actually somebody then pointed out they didn't count chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. So they really had 34 flavors. But at any given time, you can go in and find 31, 34 different flavors. Over the years, they've had over 1,000 different flavors. Things including Nuts to You, Baseball Nut, Rocky Road, Candy Date, Daiquiri Ice I used to love, Pink Bubblegum. Here Comes the Fudge.
I love that one. I'm still back at the cocoa thing that sell Cocoa a Go-Go.
Cocoa a Go-Go.
In my world, every day is a good day for a go-go dancer, right?
I know you love go-go dancers.
Boy.
I love that.
Yeah.
And Mr. Robbins' favorite ice cream, and it's actually one of mine too, was Jamocha Almond Fudge. That was one of his favorites.
Jamocha Almond Fudge. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a light chocolate. It's almost like a milk chocolate ice cream with almonds in it and then a fudge swirl. So that was his favorite. He received a phone call from a reporter in 1964 and asked what he was going to do to celebrate the Beatles' arrival to the U.S. To be on the Ed Sullivan Show. And they said they were caught off guard, but they came up with something quick called Beetle Nut. And they ended up able to put it out in 2 days, which I thought was pretty interesting.
My God, that's great. That's good.
He says he ate 3 to 4 scoops of ice cream a day. And he said that he thinks he helped Americans become adventurous in their ice cream choices. They did decide as they started opening up more and more stores, they realized that they weren't spending enough time. The more stores they would open, the less time they would spend with each store. So they actually were credited with franchising way before McDonald's or Burger King.
So wait, Tim, the stores they began, they had their own stores. They owned and operated them.
So they had their own stores,
Okay.
and they said that they couldn't devote the time they needed to. And so as they were opening more and more stores, as Baskin-Robbins became popular, they hit on the idea of selling the stores to their managers because that way they would have buy-in. So they said without realizing it, right? Without realizing at the time, he said we were in franchising. We were in the franchise business before it was even fashionable. He said we'd open one store after another, and we'd make an agreement with the new store owners, which became franchise agreements. And they became the first fast food company ever to franchise their outlets. They said little did McDonald's and Burger King know the future of the age of franchising was underway. So I actually always thought it was McDonald's, but it was not. It was
Same here. Was it
Baskin-Robbins.
Ray Kroc was McDonald's, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. They said they sold for $12 million. They sold the Baskin-Robbins franchise to the United Fruit Company in 1967, And and then Burt Baskin died shortly after at 54 of a heart attack. Robin stayed
Oh,
involved.
that's young. That's
I know.
young.
Robin stayed involved with the company, and it became the world's largest chain of ice cream stores with 5,500 chains worldwide. It's now owned by Inspire Brands, which owns Arby's, Buffalo, Wild Wings, Sonic, Drive-In, Jimmy John's, Dunkin' Donuts, etc.
Sounds like a holding company for food, right?
Yeah, he died at 90. Is buried in Rancho Mirage, and they said ice cream never left him. They said he had a soda fountain inside his house. His swimming pool was shaped like an ice cream cone, and he also had a boat which he christened the 30-second flavor. And so he died in 2008 at 90 years old.
90.
Certainly changed the landscape of ice cream in America.
And it certainly changed your life when you worked there. Tim was lucky enough to work at Baskin-Robbins.
And the factory.
And you were union, right? So you made good money. And you were doing two
God.
jobs. You were doing that and you did Walden Books.
That and Walden Books. I drove the forklift in the freezer 65 below zero. And I was making then, John, $17 an hour in the 80s.
Yeah.
Imagine. It was incredible money. I was able to buy a car and drink Heineken beer in college.
Well, the other side of that story, though, is I think one summer I worked at Marshall's, one summer I worked at a factory, and that summer at the factory, you and I would get together and go to Dairy Queen in Watertown or Waterbury, and we would just have like soft serve and just sit and say nothing because we were both exhausted from my factory job and Tim's two jobs. But Walden Books was part-time. You didn't do that every day.
I pretty much did, though. No, I would go there, and then on weekends. It was, when I think about it now, you and I both worked our butts off.
We worked all the time. Well, we put ourselves through school, so
there were no kids going. We weren't kids backpacking through Europe.
Or going to a hostel that's in the top of an IKEA in Vienna as a student, right?
So Baskin-Robbins. I was telling those stories over Thanksgiving because I saw our friend Mary Ann's whose father ran the plant, and how I got in trouble for changing the recipe on the German chocolate cake.
You can at least share Mary Ann's mom's advice to you on how to look busy at work.
Yeah, that was one of the smartest things. And I still remember that today. I got moved off the line. I was like Lucy. I kept getting taken off of different jobs because I wasn't college kid, wasn't performing well, and I was supposed to be in maintenance. And I was coming from one place to another. And Mary Ann's mom calls me and goes, "What are you doing?" Because she had worked there. And I said, "Oh, I'm going to the other room to pick up something." She goes, "Never walk around with nothing in your hand." She goes, "Always have something in your hand, a broom,
clipboard,
anything." And I said, "Why?" She goes, "Because you could always be on your way somewhere. Somebody stops you, you're on your way somewhere." She goes, "Otherwise, it looks like you don't do anything." And so to this day, I would, even when I was at Subaru, then I would like to go to the bathroom. I'd grab my book, or I'd grab a binder, or I'd grab a pad, and I'd walk on the way. Because if I got stopped along the way, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll come back. I'll get you." Make it look like you got somewhere to go, something to do.
Eagle-eared listeners have probably heard us mention Mary Ann's mom a number of times because we would visit Mary Ann a lot. And her mom and dad would stay up and they enjoyed seeing us. Even though we were in high school, we made them laugh. And then Mr. C would fall asleep in that chair, the lazy boy. And Mrs. C would regale us with all this hysteria. And to this day, we've had an education like no one else. It's little things like that. Yeah. Like you always carry something when you're going here or there.
I never forgot it. The other thing was never have a vanity plate. I remember I was going to get a vanity plate for my car.
You were going to get one.
She says, "You don't want that." I was getting my first car, so excited after college. I said, "Oh, I'm going to get, this is available," whatever it was, Tim something. She said, "Why would you want that?" I said, "Why?" She goes, "You don't want people to know where you are." She goes, "They're going to remember a vanity plate, but they're not going to remember a gray Honda. But they're going to remember the gray Honda with the plate that says, Tim B, 63 or whatever." When she was right, and I think about it to this day. I can't tell you the number on my car now. Do you know your license plate number?
No, QT.
But if it was, JTB, JTR, you'd know what it was, right?
But a vanity one, you would know. You'd remember that, yeah.
And everybody else would know, too. And you don't want to know. Maybe you're going to be somewhere you shouldn't be. That's what she said to me. Maybe you're going to be somewhere you don't want to be, or maybe you didn't. You don't want somebody to know you were, I saw you there. I saw your plate. So I never got a vanity plate.
The first time I met Mary Ann's mom, she was outside their house spraying tent caterpillars with Final Net because she's seen on
Killing
the
'em.
Phil Donahue
Yeah.
show that froze them, and sure enough, they would like freeze up and fall off.
Essentially
And then she
glue.
put the can, they put the can down. She said, "What do you know about these 3D things? There's a Creature from the Black Lagoon is on in 3D, and I got these glasses from someone, and they're not working." She had the red and the blue on the wrong eyes because they're cardboard, right? I did it the right way, and she sits down in front of the TV. She goes, "Ooh, the creature's popping right out at me." I mean.
I remember
So we
that
were
was a
very
big
lucky.
thing to get those glasses. Yeah,
We were very lucky to have Marianne and her parents in our life. That is for sure.
So our Baskin-Robbins sidebar.
Yeah.
So
You're Baskin-Robbins, yeah.
So John mentioned at the break that we had a story here from Apple, and Tim Cook was just recently interviewed on a podcast, and the person who was interviewing asked him about hiring traits of people and how you can get hired at Apple. Apple's notorious for putting people through a very rigorous interview process, I guess, in the thought of they're going to find the right people. I will say in a sidebar, I over my lifetime, and I think you know some of them as well, I've known 3 people that have worked at Apple, and while they're all very smart, I would also say that the other thing they all had in common is they were also very rigid, somewhat
Well,
unbending.
look, it's a corporation, right?
Well, they were very rigid and very unbending in process, and I mean it that way. They were very focused and rigid about this is what we're doing, this is why you do it, and that would kind of come into their life. Also felt they were elitist about their products, which of course they loved their products. They thought they were best, but nothing, if you didn't have an Apple product, you were just dismissed. And then the third thing is I always felt they were very unaware about how people actually use their products. And not just, you and I talk about functionality or why they constantly make changes all the time, but also about what they did about how social media has either harmed or helped. Mm-hmm. And I think because they had a law or a rule, you weren't allowed to be on social media as an employee. And I thought it's such a odd thing, right? Because so many people use their products for social media, right? iPad, iPhones, all that sort of stuff. So, but those are my 3 things about them. But do you want to share with what Tim Cook says?
Yeah, so
one of the traits
led
they're
off.
looking for.
So they talked to him about the characteristics. I think the podcast, he was interviewed by Dua Lipa, and about 3 or 4 minutes into the interview, he said that everyone that works at Apple believes that 1 + 1 = 3. And, the writer of the piece says, poor math skills don't sound like they'd be ideal for workers at a top tech company, but Cook broke that down by what he meant. He said, it's an incredible feeling to work with people that bring out the best in you. And fundamentally, we all believe that 1 + 1 = 3. Your idea plus my idea is better than the individual ideas on their own. So it's kind of it's a plus.
But to me, isn't
thing.
that still 2 ideas? If you have an idea and I have an idea, isn't that still 2 ideas?
Well, he thinks that if they're 2 great ideas, it's better than the 2 of them combined. And then that led him directly into
So how is that 3?
Yeah, look at you.
No, I mean, I really was wondering about this one. I guess, would you
just think
debate
it's
him on that?
I think it's a funny way for him to make the point that great things happen with this next thing, which he connected it to, which is, he said, I think one of the characteristics that I look for in people is collaboration. Can they really collaborate? Do they deeply believe that 1 + 1 = 3? So they keep this theme going through this podcast interview, but the thing is, when you have more than one person, it's always going to be better or bigger than you think. It's going to be a plus up. That's why he probably hit on this 1 + 1 = 3 thing, right?
Okay, so it's not literal. I have an idea.
No. I think he's just
that's 2 ideas.
Yeah, it's about what happens.
We all
the
have
power of-
ideas, and and then it's gonna bring more out. So 2
The power
ideas
of
may
collaboration.
become 1, may become another idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, you want people to be team players and collaborative, right? I mean, that's...
Yeah, but here's what Tim was talking about as well. So Glassdoor and Quora, who are their job forums, have talked about the process of being hired by Apple. And here, this just blew me away. The application process is very rigorous, with some job candidates reporting as many as 13 total interviews. Wow. Apple was also described as being very protective of its upcoming products, monitoring trash cans, using code names for new products, and covering windows with black curtains. Okay, the new iPhone, what's it going to look like? Well, it's probably going to look like this.
It's going to have a phone. It's going to have numbers. So what So that would you have? Do you think you would have been able to pass the rigorous?
No, I don't believe so.
Why you would have lost interest?
I think 13 interviews is a lot of time to keep your energy level up and your excitement about something as you're being ground down and asked a lot of questions. It reminds me of the time you and I back in the serious days, there was a book that we looked at about the questions that Google asks.
Yeah.
And remember one of them was like, how many red children's bouncing balls are there in Canada?
Right.
And they told you how you were supposed to figure it out. I'm already checked out. I don't care how many red balls are in Canada.
Yeah.
But you
were supposed to say, right. You were supposed to say, somebody asked me that the other day. Like, how do you figure that out? Well, Canada's population is 35 million. If, 20% of that is children, if every kid's got a ball, blah, blah, blah.
And that was the path to the solution.
There's probably 600,000 red balls in Canada.
Yeah, and if you could have been, or they'll say how many marbles are in a glass jar that's this wide by this height, and and you're in an interview, you're not expected to. Anyway, I'll tell you this about Apple and the store staff, though. I think they hire some really cool people to work in the stores. I'm not sure. I'd love to think I could be one of them, but whenever I have an interaction with one of them, I realize maybe I don't have quite the personal touch.
Patience, John.
Or the patience. So if anybody listening has AirPods Pro, the ones that noise cancel, they have these little silicone tips on them. And I didn't realize you could actually replace the tips. And mine were getting kind of old. And I thought I went online and sure enough, for $7, you could get a set of 2 or 4 tips, I think it is. So yeah, 2 and 2 for, to each side. I order it. I go down to the 14th Street Apple store, and I walk in to pick it up, and the guy says, I'll come right back. And he brings this little cardboard thing back. And I said, hey, I have never changed the tips on these things. And he goes, oh, let's do it together. Like I'm a child. But, I fell for it. He's like, hold the tip, pull. No, don't be afraid to pull it. Don't be afraid to pull it. So I pull it. And he goes, and you put the new one on, it's going to click. You got to do it this way. He goes, there you go. He goes, now you could do this all the time. You could change anytime. You could small, large, medium. I walked out of there with a smile on my face laughing because of that whole, let's do it together. And I thought that is what they're looking for, right? They're looking for someone who's always enthusiastic for an interaction and never, like I would be, what do you mean you don't know how to get to the, you know what I mean? I would immediately
Well, you're good with the
judge.
interaction and the chatter, but then you lose your patience.
Oh, yeah.
You've done that with me a million times. You do it with Bob. I've seen you. John, I can't get this for...
Okay, Tim, you nailed this. So Bob got a new iPad. He's replacing an iPad mini he got 10 years ago. So first he's wondering why his iPad mini just doesn't keep up and why it's so slow.
Well, have you updated it? You probably gave him the long list of lecture, right?
I did. And then I said, look, honey, it's 10 years old. Well, it doesn't matter. It should run like it ran 10 years ago. I said, but
yes.
The chip is different. Everything's different. We've had advances. He gets the new one, and every 5 minutes, I'm sitting watching the news. How do you do this? How do you do that? Finally, I had him sit next to me on the couch. I said, let me show you. And he starts ham-handing the butt, touching it. And I'm like, just give it to me. He goes, well, I can't learn if you do it. I'm like, well, just watch. Yeah, so you see the problem, right? You see the problem.
I know the problem.
It was like Tim and I were on a cross-country road trip in a VW Beetle, and he could not get Verizon to keep his cellular connection going. And he would call in the car, customer service, and he'd say, I want to do this, I want to do that, here's the credit card number. And I'm listening carefully to what he's saying. Finally, we get to the Inn of the Turquoise Bear. Mm-hmm. And we're up in this room that they hadn't opened in 5 years. They pulled sheets off. It's like one of those haunted house things. The dust is flying around. We're both sneezing because the rooms were dusty. They hadn't been used. So Tim said, I'm going to call one last time. I said, Tim, when you call, here's what I want you to say. I want you to say that you want to do something that was a recurring or a subscription thing. You call, and it worked. And you're like, well, why didn't you say this before? Why didn't you tell me this before?
Yeah, you heard me in the car. You
heard me in the car, and you didn't tell me what was going on. I said, well, I had to figure out what they were trying to figure out on their end. You kind of tech support or customer service, you're relying on someone being like Sherlock Holmes on the other end of the phone, right? And listening to Tim over time, I realized that he was saying what he wanted to say, but he was using one word.
Using the wrong language.
One word, like it was something about recurring something or whatever. And when I figured it out, then it got fixed. But yeah.
You know, my biggest problem is now, and I was on Amazon Music the other day, and I'm trying to delete multiple songs. You know, I know how to delete one song off a playlist. Try to delete multiples. I can't. I've gone to YouTube tutorials everywhere. Nobody seems to have the functionality.
Nope. You're talking about Amazon Music, right?
Yeah. Why can't you just go, highlight
By the way,
something
Bob and I
hit delete?
hate iTunes now, the music thing. I'm looking for some substitute to just play the music that I own.
Yeah, you need to do that for me too, so we can put.
Because you're in the same boat.
Yeah.
I went to the thing the other day and I couldn't even. I'm not going to go there.
it's a
This
mess,
is what Tim was saying about they make some great
Apple.
stuff, but yeah.
The other thing, my other takeaway with him, Tim Cook says, it's important that the employees want to change the world.
Yes.
And aren't satisfied with the way things are. Sound a little Scientologist to me.
Just a touch. Yeah.
It sounds like something Tom Cruise used to say. You can do something about it. You can
Do
change the
something about
world.
it. You can change the world.
I
yeah.
can do something about it. Yeah, okay. What are you going to change at Apple? What are they changing the world with? I guess they did change the world.
Oh, my God. I have a friend named Charles, and he said, Steve Jobs had no idea what these little slabs of glowing glass was going to do to the world. Think about it. These little rectangles changed everything. Everything.
Here's the odd part. Here's the odd thing to think about, because I saw this. Somebody else had made mention of it. 5 years ago, TikTok didn't exist, or some of these, functionalities, the watch or the you have the watch, right? The iPhone or the iWatch. But they said, what is going to be the next? Like, is there going to be a piece of technology that's going to come, or we just don't know it yet?
Good question. I would say that in our lifetime, the fax machine, the iPhone, the cellular phone,
just a personal computer. Right?
You're right. The PC.
What's gonna be next? Is there something? Is there something coming that we don't know, or is functionality all going to be put into one place? Even now, people don't even. I mean, I think there's not as many iPads being sold. Probably people use their phones more. I've noticed
phones
that
are
more and
really the phone and actually,
and
the
everybody
truth
put
is,
their music on the phone versus.
There are less
on
computers
iPods.
being sold like
Are there?
MacBooks. Yeah, and the iPad and the phone do really well. Hey, I was watching an old person the other day. Old, I mean an elderly person using an iPad quite easily, and I thought, if that's all they need, tap 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 tap, right? Why would they need a computer?
Yeah. Yeah, my mom has an iPad and she loves it. I mean,
She probably navigates it fine, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
She's so, I think like a lot of folks gets, intimidated, wants you to constantly ask her to back up, or do you want to do this and want to do that? And she's from the school of, if you hit a button, you do something wrong, you're going to lose everything. I'm like, Mom, you can't mess it up. If you hit something and
you could fix it later.
Yeah, but she gets concerned that it's you just don't want to hit buttons. Whereas I watch my 3-year-old grandnephew, who's can get around a phone and an iPad better than me. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. It's almost like they're born with it.
I had lunch with a young woman the other day who took out the phone and started typing on that little glass, the glass keyboard. Yeah. Mile a minute. I was blown away. I'm like, wow. She clearly never had a BlackBerry, which we love those because they were physical
phone.
Keys. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so
Anyhow,
if you want to go to
friends,
Apple, right? If you want to go work at Apple, you better be able to count 1 and 1 equals 3.
And you better make sure that you're passionate about that 3, and you'll defend it till you die.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for joining us today on the Focus Group. We want to thank our partner, Deep Discount. It's a last-minute gift sale. And you go to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo to get to their site and start your shopping extravaganza. I picked a movie called Lost in America, written and directed by Albert Brooks. Tim picked a collection of all the Rankin and Bass holiday features, which you have to remember. And this is one you want to get because it was like, how many hours, Tim? It was like 5 discs,
5
hours.
discs, 746
something
minutes.
of minutes, yeah. And the new release this week over there is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, his last installment, Harrison Ford playing Indiana Jones. We want to remind everybody, as you're driving and doing all your shopping, don't text and drive. Please arrive alive. Tim and I are very conscious of this when we see bad driving. Please stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the new week.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.